I remember it like yesterday when Matt came down the stairs and said so casually with a smile, I booked a one-way ticket to Santiago, Chile. I thought to myself, is this real? Can we really leave our amazing careers, friends, and family? Fast forward 10 months later, after all the hard conversations, endless checklists, and heartfelt goodbyes, we were heading to the airport with one backpack each, about to set out for a multi-year adventure around the world. Filled with excitement, we had no idea what to expect, but we knew it would be a fun ride. Join us as we share what we are learning on our journey of a lifetime. This is Passport Joy Travel Talk with Nikki and Matt Javitt.
Hello. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. This is Matt Javitt, and Nikki Javitt's next to me from PassportJoy.com. We're bringing you this episode. We're talking about Hong Kong and all the great things that we experienced in our 10-day trip there. So please tune in and check this out. Also, we're going to talk about a surprise location or two that we have discovered during our journey around the world that we did not think was going to be someplace that we loved as much as we did, but we ended up loving it. And then we're also going to answer another question about how we decide where we're traveling next. So please check out this episode. Hope you enjoy it. And as always, you can get the show notes on these episodes at the website, passportjoy.com. And that is where we break down, make it easy. There's easy links there for you to click on. Sometimes I've shared photos of the things that we're talking about, and you just click on those and check it all out. It's an easy way to do it. Again, passportjoy.com. You go to the podcast tab, and that's where you'll see it. And you also have a chance to see our other blog posts that we publish, and all the tools and tips and the books we read and all kinds of stuff on the website. And while you're on the website, please sign up for our newsletter. The newsletter goes out once a week, and that really keeps you up to date on where we're traveling on a weekly basis, and gives you insight on some of the other unique things that we experienced that we might have not mentioned on the podcast, but then you'll get extra insight on the things that we're doing, and it gives up kind of a more of a personal touch. So sign up for the newsletter if you can. Okay, enjoy this episode, and look forward to connecting on the socials. Thanks. Ni hao. That would be hello in Chinese. We're going to talk about Hong Kong today. We had the great opportunity of spending 10 days there, and we absolutely loved it. We didn't really go in with much expectations. We just knew it was a massive city, and it was probably going to be a lot of fun. And Nikki did some research on activities we should take a part of when we're there. And then it ended up being an epic 10 days where we had a blast. So we're going to tell you about some of the things that we found to help your travel to Hong Kong, maybe mix some of these things in and have a great trip. But in the end, it's just like any major city in the world. If you attempted to do all of New York City or all of Chicago, it's impossible. You need months and years to really understand all that's offered in these cities and all the greatness that comes with them. So the few items that we're going to list are things that you can mix into your travel there, but by no means is this like in the top 5 lists or anything, because it's one of those things where experience with any travel is your own. So you just got to figure out what you like and the interests that you have and mix those into it. But Hong Kong it gives you that awesome vibe of a massive city, unbelievable multicultural experience as you walk down the street. It's extremely clean. We were shocked at how clean a big city like that could be. The transportation is amazing and efficient. It can be intimidating at first, but once you understand how all the railroads connect and where you need to be in order to grab it, it's extremely fluid and awesome. Great infrastructure, awesome Wi-Fi. The parks were amazing, just these mini parks mixed into the vertical jungle, as Nikki called it, these huge buildings, but then you have these beautiful parks and a lot of the elderly that would hang out there, and the kids as well. I would go to the park to do my workouts and stuff and just see these kids and the older generation hanging out together. It was really cool. And then the diverse food options, which we'll get into a little bit, but that was an awesome experience. And then the nightlife is jamming, just like any big city that has great nightlife. It had that for sure. And then Hong Kong I'm not a fashion guy, but I got to assume that it's one of the biggest fashion hotspots in the world, and they had every single luxury brand and big brand and shopping everywhere. So we were super, I don't know why. I guess I was shocked because I didn't do so much research into it. I just always knew Hong Kong from different movies you watched growing up. But when we got there and discovered it, it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. It did come with the big city price tag on a lot of stuff. So we found ourselves, especially after spending some time in some of the cheaper places in Asia and then going to Hong Kong, we felt that it was more expensive. But comparatively speaking, when you're looking at Europe and some other places, I don't think it's that expensive in hindsight. I don't think it's that bad, but it's definitely a place that you should definitely consider if you are going into that part of the world.
Yeah, so I'm going to touch a little bit just on the transportation aspect. So in Hong Kong, you can take Ubers, you can take taxis, of course, and then walking around is easy, but going from point A to point B, depending on where you are going, can be quite far at times. So there's this thing in Hong Kong called the Octopus card. And what it will do is you can buy this card. You have to put down a 50 HKD, which is the Hong Kong dollar deposit. And you can load this card up for the MTR. The MTR is the Mass Transit Railway, which is their version of like the Metra in the United States. And you can use this also to take buses, ferries, etc. And the funny thing about this card is you can also use this card at convenience stores like 7-Eleven, shops, supermarkets, even to pay for fast food like at McDonald's. And it's super convenient. The thing that you do want to note about the card is that they will only let you load the card up in increments of 50 HKD. Like you can't just put on like some exact amount if you know it costs that much to get from one point to another. But the cool thing about the card is that you can return the card at the airport at the MTR information desk, and they will refund you for any remaining monies on the card and give you back your 50 HKD deposit. And they just charge you a small fee for doing so, which is only 8 HKD. It's like a service fee. And we use this card everywhere. We just load it up. You can go to a 7-Eleven and just say, hey, I want to put 100 HKD on this. And you can do it just to even get snacks. And I would do that all the time. Like I'd be like, hey, I want to go get some coconut water. I'd go to 7-Eleven and I'd just swipe my Octopus card. So that's a good tip to do because then you don't really have to carry loose cash around and worry about it. I didn't have to worry about taking taxis or like for me, I don't have a phone plan. So a lot of times I'm not on Wi-Fi. I mean, I didn't have to worry about getting in Ubers or whatever. And I just took the MTR everywhere. So that was super convenient. And our Airbnb host told us about that. So as soon as we got off the plane and in the airport, we just went to the station and found the little desk and loaded up one of those things. So it's great. And I would highly suggest that.
Yeah. And I think there's a little tip in there too. If you're booking an Airbnb and you have a good, reliable host, hopefully through the review process, you do look for hosts that do have good ratings just by being good communicators or whatnot. I've always liked to say, just send a quick note, say, hey, anything I need to know as I enter the city and anything I need to think about. And if hopefully they'll give you good advice. A lot of Airbnb hosts are really good at this now as far as they'll have something that they copy and paste and send it over to you and give you detailed instructions. But some people will personalize it and give you those hot tips like Nikki just said that said, hey, basically, hey, as soon as you get off, grab an Octopus card and it'll save you a lot of time and money. And here's how you get to the place the easiest. So make sure that if as you're booking your Airbnb for a weekend stay or a week or whatever, don't be afraid to reach out and ask because at the end of the day, they're making money from you and they should give you as much advice to make your trip the easiest as possible and then communicate along the way so you know when you arrive, they'll be there and it's a smooth, easy transition into setting up and getting in their home, whether it's a shared living space or you got your own place.
Yeah, and now that I think about it, I did say that taxis were an option, and they most definitely are. But I would suggest just to take the MTR because honestly, it's super affordable and reliable. It runs like every couple minutes, but the traffic in Hong Kong is quite hectic. And I'm assuming if you were to take a taxi, it would be
more expensive, and it would probably just eat more into your time as opposed to just hopping on the train. So it depending like how long of a distance you're going and at what time, obviously, if it's rush hour. We also found that in other cities that we were visiting, like in Bangkok for sure. But I would just personally take the train. But yeah, it might be easier to take the train depending on what time of day that you're going. Another thing that I found enjoyable that I would highly suggest is, so Matt really likes sports, as we all know. And so prior to going to Hong Kong, I'd done my research, like what sport can we go see or what function is there, available in Hong Kong. And I had found this Happy Valley race course. And luckily, it was only a 15-minute walk away from where we were staying in Hong Kong. And it was in the Wan Chai area. And they have these really cool events every Wednesday, and they call it Happy Wednesday. And they actually have their own hashtag on Twitter and on Instagram. It's called #Happy Wednesday. And they have this whole event based around it where each Wednesday is a different theme and whatnot. They'll have like different entertainers come in, whether it be dancers or whatnot. But it's really cool. It's kind of like a place for people to come after work to unwind, place bets if you want to, have a cocktail. They have several different food vendors, beer stands all around, different types of beer even, like they had a Heineken stand, a Stella Artois beer stand, etc. They also have a bar if you're not into beer, but you can go and you can just watch the races. And a really cool thing is they have this club on the premises, and the club is called Adrenaline. If you go after 10 p.m., you can get in for free. They have live music, and you can watch the last two races from above the finish line. And it has like the most magnificent view of the horse track. And you can drink some cocktails, listen to live music, and watch the last two races. And it was just a really cool experience just to hang out with people and meet new people and see a horse race in Hong Kong. So it was fun.
Yeah. And so for those of you that I'll try to paint the picture for those that have been to horse races, because Nikki and I have had a chance to go to horse races now in a lot of different places. And for those that have never been to a horse track, this track was extremely unique where it is in the middle of the city. So you're surrounded by the beauty of all the buildings and the nightlife and just the vibe of a major city. And just tucked in the middle of that is a beautiful, massive horse track, which if you've never been to a horse track, I'm going to mess up the size, but it's essentially probably 2 football fields, maybe 2.5 football fields with a huge circle track around it. And then the horses in America, they typically run counterclockwise. Here in Hong Kong, they ran clockwise. And so in that process, and then in the middle of the field, there's a bunch of greenery and it's gorgeous. And they have the screens where they have the ongoing bets that you can place, and when people, after the horses are done, how they finish, and they have all the visuals in front of you in the massive screen. But it's always one-sided, if that makes sense. Maybe not always, but in a lot of cases, horse tracks are always one-sided, where you're on one side of the track looking, the stands are on one side looking out into the track, and then that also looks into the city view. So it's gorgeous where all the people are on one side of the field, if you want to call it that, and they're all partying and drinking and having a good time, placing their bets in the stands. And it's a great vibe. The best vibe I've ever seen as far as a horse race goes. I've never been to Kentucky Derby yet, but I got to assume that it's kind of that buzz and feel. There was a lot of people that are dressed up that looked cute and they were doing their thing. They actually had like a red carpet area as well. So it was just unique to be in this major city and see all this. It does so you have an idea of the size. It holds 55,000 people capacity. So it's about a third of the size of Churchill, but it's intimate, and it's we heard a lot of Westerners there, a lot of Westerners, but there was a lot of mixed locals as well. And you place their bets. Bets were different. I'm not going to get into that, but basically they do first or second place. They don't do third place, and they do there's a lot of different kinds of betting. But for those that are, it's real easy to do because they give you a sheet on how to make the bets, and it's explained in English. So. But that's it. I don't dwell too much on that, but we'll have a link to that. So you can, if you decide to go to Hong Kong, it was super cool. And I actually leveraged my Twitter presence and sent a tweet, and they took care of us. They really took care of us. And that made it even better. But yeah, Happy Valley was really cool. I guess moving on to another thing we did, man, we're going to sound like degenerates here. We went to Macau we just talked about horse race. Now we're talking about one of the biggest gambling cities in the world. We took a day trip to Macau. So it's essentially, it's an old city that's been there, but now it is absolutely a gambling mecca of the world where they have all the big casinos there, and it is unbelievable. Like I said, I lived in Vegas for about 14 months, and Nikki and I have been there a ton of times, and it is everything Vegas is, but it's like on steroids. These buildings, these casinos are gorgeous. The store, endless amounts of high-end retail, endless. Nikki and I just left our head shaking, like, where is all this money coming from? And the casinos were intense. It wasn't the typical vibe you feel in Vegas because the games are different. They play different styles of games in Macau rather than you would find in Vegas because of the ways that the gamblers think and their mentalities. So what we saw was less slot machines, a ton of baccarat tables, and then less like pure gambling tables, where when I say pure gambling, like the craps or the roulette or the different types of poker game tables, there was less of that. And now we were there during kind of a midday shift, but you know how you're in Vegas, everybody's drinking all the time. We didn't see hardly any drinking at all. It was like intense gambling. Like everybody there was trying to make their income or it was, and the limits, oh my God, the limits were nuts. So we were there on a Tuesday. The idea is you can make a day trip out of it. I'd probably suggest if you like the casino vibe or if you like high-end shopping or if you just want to see the city of Macau, probably 2 to 3 days would be sufficient where you wouldn't go broke. It depends on how much gambling you're trying to do, but the limits are so high, essentially $60 US minimums. So for my gamblers out there, to get on a blackjack table, it was 6,500 Hong Kong dollars, which is 60 US dollars. And it go up on the weekends because we were there on a Tuesday. So needless to say, we didn't sit down anywhere to gamble, but because the minimums were super high. And then we ended up visiting, I think 4 or 5 different casinos. We jumped around and they were all the same. So extremely intimidating from that regard. But if you're a gambler and that's something you want to do, it is beautiful. These casinos were amazing and gorgeous, and they had shuttles, and we did this. Yeah, the Eiffel Tower exact replica. It's definitely a place where if you're not going to gamble, you can walk around and have an amazing time, and you can eat great food, and you can visit these high-end shopping places. And there's, like Vegas, there's mixed in fun stuff for kids to do. There's what they call gondola rides at the Venetian. There's a lot of fun stuff to do if you're like, I don't even care about gambling. I just want to go see it and be in awe of the beauty of it all. And because it is that, and it's one of those cities that was built so fast. If you look at the history of it, and for them to be able to do this, when I say them, the Chinese, to be able to build these magnificent structures and that are so close to each other, it's just amazing. It's mind-boggling what people are capable of doing. So yeah, I really enjoy just being from my gambling background and living in Vegas. Just to be in Macau was really neat to me.
Yeah. So just a little bit more about Macau. So in order to get to Macau from Hong Kong, you have to make sure you take your passport, and it's a ferry ride over there. You can fly over there, but I don't know how expensive that would be. The cool thing about it is when you take your passport over, you have to go through customs. And when you do that, it actually resets your Hong Kong passport again to 90 days. So as a US citizen, when you come to Hong Kong, you can come here on a tourist visa, and your visa lasts for 90 days. And so when you go to Macau on your Hong Kong visa, it resets it again back at 90 days again. So really, really weird. I thought that was kind of weird. But the ferry cost itself was $22 one way to get there per person during the day, US dollars. And I'm assuming at night it would be more costly because when we came back the same day at night to get back, it was $26 per person to get back. So not fairly expensive, but another thing to note, which is good to know, is that there are free shuttle buses that will take you because there's two sides of Macau where all of the casinos are located. Like the Venetian is completely on the opposite side of the MGM Grand on the other side of Macau. And these shuttle buses that are owned by each casinos will line up and you just tell them which casino you want to go to and they're clearly marked to the bus and they will take you for free to each casino because they want your business. But there are taxis too, so you don't want to pay for a taxi, but they will also take you to the ferry to get back to Hong Kong for free as well. So you can save money that way. And another thing I did want to mention is be careful that you do not have to take your Hong Kong dollar and exchange it over to the Macau dollar to use over there to gamble. You can just gamble with your Hong Kong dollar that you already have, or you can gamble with US money. But if you buy something over there with the Hong Kong dollar, they will give you change back in the Macau dollar, and you can't use the Macau dollar on the Hong Kong side. And so when I came back, I had some Macau money and I was unaware of it, and I was trying to buy something at a 7-Eleven and they're like, I can't use this. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know I had that. So just some tips if you actually end up going to Macau.
Yeah, and it's really easy to get there because you can grab these ferries that are in the city of Hong Kong. And we didn't mention, but Hong Kong is, they've got all these pockets of neighborhoods, just like any other major city, that they have these different pockets of neighborhoods that have their own, I guess, vibe, because they have their own types of restaurants and nightlife. But the way that Hong Kong is set up, it's really easy to get to the ferries, and then the ferries are super fast and real easy to get on and off of and marked, so English reading people can understand what's going on quickly. So you don't have to feel intimidating like, oh my God, we're going to another part of China. Is this going to be a rough process? It's actually extremely easy if you find a blog post or whatnot to understand how to do it. We just did some quick research and we were on and off and didn't feel like that we were ever going to get lost or anything intimidating. Okay, so and then transitioning into food, I like, Nikki, you start the food stuff.
I'm always talking about food, I feel like. Yeah, so in Hong Kong, like usually my thing is because I'm such a picky eater, I feel like before I really ever go to a place, I always try to search out the vegan options and the vegetarian places. So I had a lot of places in mind before we came to Hong Kong, but I found this one girl's blog post and I had just marked on the map like all these different restaurants that I really wanted to try out. But Hong Kong in general has so many diverse options for food, whether it be vegan restaurants or vegetarian restaurants, that I really had no problem finding good places to really eat. And even explaining myself in a restaurant that wasn't vegan or vegetarian based, I would just ask for, like the vegetarian option, and right away people understood me. And there really wasn't that language barrier there. So Hong Kong, though, is generally expensive when it comes to eating out. I mean, you can find cheap places. So I would say that like a typical sit-down meal at a restaurant when you're not drinking, so like a non-alcoholic drink, will probably cost you around like 100 HKD per person. So maybe like $13, but that's like normal. I mean, if you're in the United States, that's like a typical meal, but it's not what we're used to. In Southeast Asia, we're used to spending much less. But I mean, we're in a world-class city now, like a Manhattan or a Chicago. So I mean, that's fairly decent. But again, here in Hong Kong, I mean, the main thing that we did, or that we really enjoyed here, was they have Chinese hot pots, and it's very similar to the hot pots that you can get in Vietnam. They just have different ingredients. And we were fortunate enough, I had reached out to a friend of mine that I have known now for probably 10 plus years. And I had worked with her at CVS. She was actually a boss of mine, and her brother lives here currently now in Hong Kong with his wife. And so we had hung out with them a couple times, and then he had found out that I'm like obsessed with hot pots, and he's like, hey, have you ever eaten a Chinese hot pot? I know you've eaten them in Vietnam. And I'm like, no, like I would love to do that. So him and his wife invited Matt and I out to eat a Chinese hot pot at this restaurant called Jackpot. And it was just like the complete experience. And I guess the difference between these hot pots and the Vietnamese hot pots that we had eaten were the same concept, where you can have the hot pot that has the simmering broth, that's burning with the burner at your table. But the actual hot pot itself had a divider so that you can share your pot, and then the divider was there so that each person can enjoy their own individualized super broth. And you didn't have to worry. So if Matt was going to eat meat, then on my side, I could still have the vegan option. It was really cool. I'd never seen that before. And so there was 4 of us eating. We didn't have to have 4 hot pots, like actual pots. We only had to have 2 pots with 2 burners, but we had actual, 4 different options because they were divided. But again, it was the same thing. You just order your meats if you wanted them, and then you ordered your greens or your vegetables on the side. And it was just so good and a great experience.
Yeah, the experience part of the hot pot is something that Nikki and I talk about. It's something we'll probably bring back to America because, not that it's not already there, but bring back in our lives is the idea of, it's just so much fun, having an open flame and cooking at right in front of you, and then going from cooking to eating within seconds or minutes. It just makes it a fun experience for everybody at the table. What's funny is we had the great chance to have dinner with these amazing couple two nights at different places over the course of the weekend that we hung out with them. And the other place we went to was a true authentic restaurant where we kind of went down this, we went into this basement of this place. And sometimes when we travel, especially where we stick out, I kind of rate the cultural and dynamic of, okay, what kind of food am I going to get here by if Nikki and I are the only white folks in the place, basically the non-traditional, wherever country that we're in, if we stick out. And that was the case this night. We went out with them both nights, really, when they took us to the hot pot and this other restaurant that we went to. And it was called Jinmingji Street Restaurant. And it was freaking awesome. We were definitely the only non-Chinese in the place. And they gave us just this amazing cultural experience. And I had some of the most exotic food I've had in a while, where I was eating snails, duck, pigeon. Pigeon was really wild to eat a pigeon, pork tofu, and then just beef and spinach. And then they had this, was it Szechuan sauce? Oh my God, it numbs your tongue. And I got to the point where I was telling our buddy that my tongue was numb, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's what is supposed to happen." But it was such a cool experience just to have all that and go through all that, and definitely something I highly recommend, even in a city like Hong Kong where it is extremely touristy and there's a melting pot of culture there. You can find a true, authentic Chinese restaurant like that, and it was a great time. So, transitioning on.
Yeah. Another, I guess, reach out to some, a networking thing that I did while I was here was, so Matt actually had asked me to, typically before we go somewhere, we try to search out a co-working space just so we can work on, blogging or our podcast. And so I was just looking at options of a co-working space for the both of us, or maybe for Matt, because the Airbnb that we were staying at was a shared space this time. And we didn't really want to be, all up in our host's business and, be loud or whatever. And when I started doing research for co-working spaces in Hong Kong, I found that they were fairly expensive. The cheapest one that I found, fairly expensive. The cheapest one I found was $150 for 5 days. And, and then you multiply that times 2 people, you're talking $300 just for 2 of us to work for 5 days. And that's not even for 24-hour access to a place like that. And it's just for a hot desk, and it's not even a guaranteed spot. So I thought to myself, well, I'm pretty certain that my alma mater, IU, where I went to undergrad, has a sister school or a sister university in Hong Kong. Maybe I'll reach out to them and see if they have some sort of, place that I can work out of in Hong Kong. So I reached out to the IU Global Alumni Association, and in a couple of days, someone got back to me and they said, unfortunately, we don't have any type of place like that. But, we'd be more than happy to like set up some sort of dinner, and maybe you can get together with the Bloomington exchange students and have like a fun night out. Would you be interested? And I was like, heck yeah. I mean, that sounds amazing. It's a great way to meet people and network and learn more about the city. So we met up with about 10 to 15 of the students and a couple of the faculty here in Hong Kong. And they took us to this place called Tung Po Kitchen. And it was just so much fun. It was like the traditional Chinese like food, and it wasn't anything like a big round table, and they just brought it out, and just like a variety of foods or whatever. And then a lot of people were drinking like ale or beer that they would then pour into a bowl and like drink out of a bowl. And then afterwards we had like just amazing opportunity to go out with a couple of the students, and they took us to some of their favorite local spots that we would have otherwise not known about. And then we went to the Lan Kwai Fong area, and it was a place that I had originally wanted to go to. It was like on my want to see list. So it was just really awesome. And just to get to talk to the students, and a lot of them are like, yeah, we graduate next year. And just to reminisce about, B-Town and my time there as an undergrad student. And it was awesome. And, a couple of them befriended us on LinkedIn, and, Matt is in IT or was in IT, and a lot of these students that's their background and that's what they're currently doing. And some of them were looking for internships, and maybe we can help them out. And it's just a great way to network and meet new people. And so, yeah, like Hong Kong for us was just, as you can hear on this podcast, it was just like a plethora of different opportunities, whether it was meeting new people or trying new foods or seeing the sights. It was just a different type of travel adventure for us. And it was the first time we really got to do that. It was meeting new friends, meeting new people, and just connecting in a different way. But at the same time, we got to experience a new city, and it was a city that we fell in love with. And I wish we had more time there. But like Matt said, I hope we go back, because it wasn't a place that you would be able to even grasp a tiny bit of it unless you stayed there for, months, years. It's so big and so large, and there's so much to see. So we really enjoyed it. But as always, I hope you guys liked what you heard, and safe travels, and we hope to talk to you guys soon.
Absolutely. And if any of the information that we're sharing on Hong Kong, please go to the passportjoy.com website, and we'll have the links from this, everything that we mentioned about Hong Kong, so you can easily find the things you want. And feel free to leave comments or other thoughts on things that we might have missed or things we need to consider if we go back there again, for not only us, but other people that are looking for travel plans. Thank you so much. And we look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you.
While traveling abroad can be exciting, there are unfortunately times when we have to think about the unpleasant what-ifs that may occur that could ruin our wandering adventures around the world. Like, what if I get injured or sick abroad? What if my luggage is lost or stolen? What if my trip has to be canceled or interrupted? So prior to leaving the United States back in February of 2017, I did extensive research on many travel insurance companies online so that I could get the most comprehensive travel insurance plan that would provide the most benefits for both Matt and I. We decided to go with 7 Corners. 7 Corners offers customizable travel insurance plans to travelers all over the world. The 2 main products being travel medical plans and trip protection plans. Travel medical plans protect travelers when they get sick or injured abroad by providing medical coverage such as medical evacuations, 24-hour assistance, and medical maximums up to $5 million. Their trip protection plans protect the cost and expenses of your trip in case you have to cancel, you have a trip interruption, or delay your travels, as well as provide coverage for delayed, lost, or damaged luggage. So you can sign up today for all your travel medical plans or trip protection plans at passportjoy.com/insurance. Again, that's passportjoy.com/insurance.
All right, let's be real. Guys don't talk about underwear unless it's a problem or they're having some sort of issue. So that's why I haven't talked about mine. But since you asked, I wear Tommy John underwear. I wore it before we left, and I bought 7 pair, 1 a day, Makes sense, right? Before we hit the road full time. And I'll tell you, it was a great decision. Tommy John is a revolutionary men's underwear brand that is redefining comfort. It's the perfect underwear to keep you comfortable no matter where we travel. I wore them climbing up Machu Picchu on this crazy scooter rides of the streets of Ho Chi Minh City. And when I was playing hoops with those kids in Kerala, India, they never rode up because they have the innovative design and proprietary fabrics to make sure that the legs never ride up, the waistband never rolls down, and you never get a wedgie because everybody's worried about that. And their horizontal quick draw fly has been described as life-changing. It is, I promise you, because of the crazy situations we have on the road with the toilets sometimes we see. It is a game changer. Plus, all the Tommy John underwear is backed by best pair you'll ever wear or it's free guarantee. So if you don't love them, you can get your money back from Tommy John. But I've never had that problem. Like I said, I had a ton before I left, and I bought 7 pair before I hit the road. So go to passportjoy.com/Tommy. Again, passportjoy.com/Tommy to find their latest styles and great deals. If you want the best underwear you can have, whether at home or traveling, any time of the day. Okay, question and answer session. Again, if you get questions, please send them in to matt@passportjoy.com or any of the socials, Instagram, Facebook page, whatever, and we'll get to them. A lot of these questions we get on the road from our friends, on other travelers, but we answer these as well from people that write in. First question is from Martin from Georgia. He asks, what has been the most surprising location so far? Anything you weren't expecting from a particular country or city? Man, there's so many surprises. The ones that come to mind first are Kochi, India, Dermi, Albania, Alicante, Spain. But I'm gonna talk about Vietnam, in particular Da Nang, Vietnam. It was such a surprise at how amazing this country. We'd heard it from other travelers, and it's mostly from other travelers that we heard about just the beauty that is in Vietnam and the authentic culture and the vibe that you get there. So we'd heard it and we'd processed it, not really dug in too deep, but then when we made our plans, we really started to dig in, and Nikki got extremely excited because Nikki really handled a ton of the Vietnam planning. And once we got there, in particular Da Nang, gorgeous city on the water, big, it's the 3rd largest city in Vietnam. So it was still large in size, and their infrastructure was amazing. Great roads, highways, and beautiful. The coastline where you can hang out on the beach, but then also walk down the beach, take a bike down the path as well. And it's a huge scooter culture, awesome scooter culture. So if you don't mind getting on a scooter or getting on the back of a scooter, it's amazing because you just scoot all around town, and they're super cheap scooters. So the whole vibe of it is almost not islandy, but it's kind of like an island, but it's also a big city. It's absolutely a large city. So you get all the niceties of having a nice city. Like I got my haircut there, really nice barbershop type situation. And the food is amazing. We fell in love with the Vietnamese food. As you know, Nikki's vegan, and I try to practice vegetarian as much as I can. So the food that you can get there absolutely suits us. We fell in love with hot pots. And so, I don't know, it was extremely surprising. I don't know why I did not expect it to be that awesome, but it really was. And we hate to always bring in cost, but cost is absolutely a part of travel. And when you think about what you can do on your trips, cost becomes part of that. And not only all the beauty that Da Nang has to offer of the things that I just described, but man, it is so freaking cheap, like extremely inexpensive when you compare it to some of the other places that you've traveled to. It might be more difficult to get to if you're booking a flight from, in your case, Georgia. But if anywhere from the States, it might be. But if you hunt around and find a great flight to get there, you're going to save a ton of money once you get there because it is so cheap. So Da Nang, Vietnam is my super surprise.
So my surprising location was San Pedro de Atacama. We really didn't have any intention on going there, but once we got there, it was just mind blowing to me. The landscapes are just, I don't even know how to describe them. So there's like lakes that are just crystal clear. I mean, so clear that it looks like turquoise water, and they're lakes. It's not the ocean. There's volcanoes, deserts, hot springs, salt flats. I mean, the landscape changes so easily just, from a couple miles. And it's almost equivalent to like the Southwest United States. So Arizona, Las Vegas area. And there's like adobe whitewashed buildings and like dusty dirt roads everywhere throughout, but it's definitely deserty. The cool thing about it is that when you wake up in the morning, it's like crisp, cool air. And I mean, it can be 0 degrees Celsius when you wake up. So in the morning, you have to dress in winter clothes. But in the afternoons, it gets quite warm because you're in the desert. So you have to definitely, when you go there, you have to prepare. So you're going to have to wear summer clothes in the winter or in the afternoon. But it's easy because you can just layer and, take off as you go. But yeah, I loved it because there's just a plethora of things to do while you're there. So for example, we went stargazing, we saw lagoons, we climbed into salt caves, we walked through geyser fields, Matt swam in the hot springs, we walked on the edge of Death Valley, and we even climbed like over 18,000 feet through the ice and snow up a mountain called Cerro Toco. So when you're here, you definitely get to see like all the nature and beauty, and it's just awe-inspiring. I loved it. I mean, it was completely unexpected. I mean, mind-blowing. I mean, there's no other word that I can describe it, but it's just the landscape is just, it's crazy. It's insane. But yeah, that was definitely surprising for me.
Yeah, and it's like the best I heard was like, it's like a movie set. You literally feel like it's almost too unbelievable, especially in videos and photos. It's remarkable. So yeah, I agree, Nikki. That was one of my big surprises. We had no idea, but everybody kept telling us in Chile to go there. And then the other one I got to shout out to is Lisbon, Portugal. We fell in love with Lisbon. The people were amazing, and the gorgeous architecture throughout the city, the winding roads where it's basically the typical European-esque city you think about as a kid growing up. When people talk about Europe, it's like Portugal or Lisbon is that. And you just find all these amazing shops and small pubs and just an awesome, fun vibe. We happened to be there during the crazy part of the year in June, which was just a ton of festivals and a lot of fun. But it's got this, it's not a big city. I think it's 500 or 600,000 people maybe, but it feels like a big city. It feels like a really big city because of the shops and the malls and the vibe they have on the water. But great infrastructure, awesome Wi-Fi, all the things you hope for as a traveler and some of the luxuries you want. And it's not too expensive either yet. I mean, I think Lisbon is one of those cities that you're going to see continues to be on the come up, and a lot of people are going to continue to visit there, but it's pretty cost friendly as of now. So that was an awesome vibe. So going on to the next question, Mike from Kansas City asked, how do you guys pick your next location? Do you just wing it, or are you calculated in your decision process? So when we first set out, we understood, we actually kind of said, okay, this is what the next 2.5 years are going to be. To backtrack a little, we left February of 17 with the goal to travel on this first leg till May 2019. And so at a high level, we would have our conversations, and I would put it on paper because I'm like a kind of the logistics type A, here's the listy, come from a military background type guy. So at a high level, I said, this is what we think we want to do. And we had booked several of the legs already to the major locations to get us from South America to Europe to India, and that's where basically it stopped. So we knew in generalities where we wanted to go, and then going forward, we know the places we want to go. But we are following the sun for sure. We're always attempting to be in warm weather. We've gotten off that track a couple of times in Argentina because where we were at in Ushuaia, Argentina, it's never too warm. So there, and we're probably going to face it when we go to Russia for the World Cup. But there's absolutely bucket list items that we want to do and things that we're looking for. Like I said, the World Cup, we've got Pearl Jam tickets now in Poland. This is going to be amazing. So we got to plan around those things. And then meeting with friends. We had a friend that popped up and said, hey, we're going to be in Madrid. So we changed the plans to be there, and Greece worked out with another set of friends. And now we're going to hopefully see another friends in Southeast Asia. So when things like that pop up, we absolutely make changes to do there if we can, if it's not too expensive. But all that said, we've also not done certain things because of the price or the timing. Like I really wanted to ride with the Bulls. Nikki thinks I'm crazy, but I wanted to ride with the Bulls in Spain this year. Run with the Bulls. Yeah, not ride. I was going to ride on the Bulls and run with the Bulls. But it just, when we looked at it, it did not make sense. The cost was going to be crazy and the timing was going to mess some things up. So we ended up going to Alicante, Spain instead, where Alicante was not on our list at all. But the reason that Alicante came up was because it was an easy flight into Venice, Italy. It was a super cheap flight from Alicante to Venice. And then we ended up falling in love with Alicante. So we try to plan at a high level, but we try to be flexible as well. And make sure that we do have a chance to call audibles. Like Nikki just described, San Pedro de Atacama, that was not on our list when we went to Chile. It wasn't even, the northern part of Chile wasn't even, it's something we knew we wanted to do, but we didn't know if we'd have time to do it. But we ended up changing plans to build it in because the people of Chile kept telling us, are you going to San Pedro? And we heard it enough that we're like, okay, we got to look into San Pedro to figure out what it was. And it ended up being amazing.
Well, also too, we had planned on going to Italy and doing a sort of road trip. And when we were in Guayaquil, Ecuador, we were staying at a hostel and actually working there through Workaway. And one of the guests there, I was cooking breakfast one morning and this guy from Italy asked us, hey, where are you going in Italy? And Matt kind of took a liking to him. And Matt said, well, these are all the places that I want to go or where I'm planning on going. And Matt ended up sitting down with this gentleman and having probably, a 40-minute conversation with him. And we completely remapped out where we were going to spend our time in Italy. And it was honestly one of the most wonderful road trips that I've been on. And we hit up all these small little Italian towns, and it was based on his recommendation. So, I mean, like Matt said, we definitely have an idea of where we want to go, like countries we want to see, areas we want to visit, and a time period of when we want to be there based on the sun, because we prefer hot weather over cold. But if someone gives us an idea or a suggestion because they've been there or they are from there, we're going to take them up on that. I mean, that's better than anything that we could possibly imagine ourselves if someone's experienced it and we haven't. I mean, they know best, they've been there. So yeah.
Yeah, so that situation there was amazing, just to have this guy who's probably in his 70s, great traveler, to be in Guayaquil from Italy, to be able to explain to us and talk us out of. Venice is gorgeous, but we were planning to be in Venice for I think 10 days. And he immediately said, do not do that, because it's going to be a budget killer for you. And there's so much beauty to see in northern Italy that you want to take it in. So he talked us into going to several of the road towns that we went to, and we ended up meeting new friends along the way. It was a great decision. So yeah, we take in all those things into account, and we try to stay as flexible as possible. Some things you have to book, then you have to stick to the booking or you're going to blow your budget. So those things we absolutely we stick to, but other things pop up and you want to do, like the Lisbon thing. We knew when we were going to Lisbon, we had the original booking was done about almost a year in advance, where we were flying from Ecuador to Lisbon because it was the cheapest way that we could use points to get into Europe. And our original plan was to stay in Lisbon for 2.5 days and then travel up to northern Portugal and then maybe into northern Spain. But what happened is we got to Lisbon and we were like, this is unbelievable. What a beautiful city. And we just happened to be there during the coolest vibe in June, where the town's going nuts with festivals. So we changed our plans and we stayed for 2.5 weeks and ended up meeting great friends, having a blast. I'll put up that in the show notes with the Lisbon Hustle post. We had an amazing time there. And the whole Vietnam decision was just a random occurrence, because we had planned to be in Kenya for that month. We had 2 volunteer efforts lined up. We had friends of friends in Kenya that were going to take us in. And we had we were going to work with these children on the coast in Kenya for 2.5 weeks. So we had all this logistics set up in Kenya, and we had planned to be there. And there was some political turmoil, if you will, and we got a note from the State Department. We watched that closely from the State Department that says if there's certain warnings out there not to travel in certain areas. So we got the warning and we looked into it, and we don't feel that there's any reason to put ourselves in harm, even if it's nothing big's going on. But there was this warning, so we ended up changing our plans from Kenya. And what we actually did was we did a lot of research, because we were coming from India at the time, and we did research to figure out where might be another cheaper location for us to go. And in that situation, Nikki and I both picked 3 cities of our choice that we wanted to go to that sounded like fun destinations that would also fit our budget for a month, the month that we were not going to be in Kenya. And that's where Vietnam came. Nikki put in Da Nang, Vietnam, thank God, because it was amazing, like I just described. So that was kind of an audible luck, just pull and go type situation. Because the crazy part about that was I had Bali, Indonesia, as one of the places I wanted to go, and Bali ended up getting a volcano eruption. So we could have been in Bali for this crazy volcano eruption, but luckily we ended up in Vietnam. So a lot of luck's built into this as well. But at a very high level, we know where we want to be in certain times of the year as we continue to follow the sun. But for the most part, we attempt to wing it the best we can with staying in our budget as much as we can. So hope that answers your question, Mike. And it's the logistics are hard, but at the same time, it can be fun, because like when you're planning for any trip, sometimes that's the most fun part, is looking ahead to see how much fun and how cool it is. Okay, that'll wrap this up for today with the Q&A. Again, matt@passportjoy.com if you have any questions you want us to answer, or on any of the socials, and we'll try to get to them. Thanks. Hope you enjoyed that episode. As always, find the show notes at passportjoy.com under the podcast link, and that's where you'll get all the links to the things that were mentioned today. Okay, as many of you know, we had this amazing contest where we had gifts donated by a lot of the brands that we love and use as we travel the road. Part of the contest was, or to win the prizes of the contest, you had to write in reviews. Again, these reviews are really important to us. Please continue to write the reviews. We really appreciate it. And the review we're reading today for one of the contest winners comes from Dr. Amanda F. She wrote, through their beautiful website, breathtaking photos, social media energy, and now clever podcast, Matt and Nikki are living the dream most people only talk about, traveling full time. Their candid discussions about challenges, pro tips, recommendations, and general sense of levity and humor keep this far from the indulgent nature of many pods. They are also good humans. Give it a listen. Thank you so much, Dr. Amanda F., for that review. We really appreciate it. And thank you all those that have written in other reviews. We'll be continuing to read those in future podcasts. And congratulations on winning the prize. And as always, we appreciate this. And we just love sharing our stories as we travel the road. We know how extremely lucky and blessed we are to be living out our life dream. And we'll continue to do that and share the stories as we can along the road. So thank you so much for everybody. And we hope to see you soon. Safe travels.